Hey, it's Mike with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday. It's May 30th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And it looks like we had some rallying. We had a couple legs up here while I was gone, um, but we've sold off the last couple of days fairly strongly today. It looked like we were going to try to go higher, but you can see we got up into overbought territory. Everything above this green line, when you start approaching this purple line up here, uh, really the brown one is the main one, so it's really when you touch this purple and get above it when you're severely overbought. And you can see we didn't quite uh, make it to the purple. We still sold off pretty strongly. It looks like we're going to end up with we had a failed breakout here, and it looks like we're trying to fail again. We'll see what happens. This market wants to go higher for now, so don't argue with it. Whatever it gives you, go with it. Um, I mean, it looks like I missed a really good rally here on Friday and maybe a couple other days. I think I was here for one of these. Can't remember, but this was a pretty good rally on Friday while I was gone. So, needless to say, I believe this was Friday. Maybe this was Thursday. I'm not even sure. Um, but anyway, we had a nice rally one day there, and then we sold off 2 days consecutively here with a pretty good sell off today. Um, so yeah, we did. We have continued to move higher. I mean, we were kind of stuck sideways here for a while, but it looks like we may try to push higher, or we could sell off from here. One thing I will tell you, we met this previous couple of highs here. This one in particular, almost to the tick. There was only a few ticks difference if they're not to the tick. So thought that was interesting, and we sold off pretty quickly. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. If we get some follow through selling or what, or we'll just have to wait and see what we get. But yeah, we're still continuing to inch higher ever so slowly. Um, each time we do break higher, we tend to come back and get right back into this range again. So we'll see if that's what happens again, or if we continue to go higher, or maybe we'll turn lower now. Who knows? But anyway, I'm back. I'm trying to catch up. It's going to take me a day or two to catch up, so just be patient. And I haven't had a chance to get to the forum. I want to get caught up with everything else. Maybe I can get some forum reading in tomorrow, and if there's anything important out there people are looking for. Um, but I got to get through all the emails and kind of get caught up first. But I'm working on that, and I made some good progress today. So maybe another day or so I'll be kind of up to speed here. But I do have a doctor's appointment tomorrow, but it shouldn't have. It's in the early afternoon, so it shouldn't affect anything. I'll come in and do my morning thing, and then I will also um, be back in time to do the afternoon update. So my ear is healing nicely. It's still got a little ways to go. That type of skin graft, it's a little slow healing, but it is healing up. It is looking better, and I'm no longer in pain. It if you bump it or hit it, it hurts, and so you got to be careful. But no real pain otherwise, and it itches a lot. And generally that's what happens when you're healing. So I hope that's a good thing. But we'll see what the doctor tells me tomorrow, and if he thinks I'm going to have any more surgery on it or not, or if we're wait and see how this heals up first. But it is looking a lot better. I still got a ways to go, but I'm feeling better and looking better. And my trip was great. The only problem was that only complaint I have is that it was 3 or 4 hours difference where I was at in Alaska from here. Most of the trip was 3 hours, but there were a couple of days where we were 4 hours difference, and so my time schedule is like way off. Um, I've had a hard time getting up early the last couple of days, and by 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, I'm dead tired. So I'm really off on all that. So hopefully it'll probably take me this week to kind of get back in the swing of things. So anyway, that's enough about that. Let's get back to the chart lesson. You see what we have here, very bearish down day, and you'll see it looks fairly similar on the intraday chart. But let's flip over there to it. And here it is. Really what we had was 2 legs down. We had a little more than a measured move down here. We pushed a little lower before we rallied back. and just kind of chop sideways to down again. And you can see these. You can see we had a leg down, and then we had this larger correction here, and then we had another bigger leg down. You probably were better off. These first two swings here, it's hard to see them, but there's a leg here, and then there's a little sideways and another leg down. I treated that as the two legs down off this first one, but after I got to looking at it later on, we continued down. There is another channel. And you'll see that sometimes. This might be a little too steep, and we get a correction, and then we get a slightly flatter channel. It could be even flatter than this, or it could be steeper. But in this case, it's a little bit flatter, and you can see that trend line in play all the way down. Then we get a break, two legs, two more similar legs similar to this one, and then we rallied fairly strongly, but took about half of that back. Maybe not quite half by the time we closed. But you can see it there. I've been having some problems all day with my chart loading properly here. I don't know what's going on. It's after 5 o'clock and the market has opened back up. Maybe there's just not much going on, but this is not moving, so it leads me to believe that something's not going right on my chart right this minute. So this was probably at, yeah, this is right at the close, so it's not showing anything since the open yet. But anyway, so there it is. You can see the trades. There's no longs in here today. It's all shorts, and there's not a whole lot of them, but there's some decent setups here. But let's zoom in. We'll go through the trades, and we'll wrap the day up and see where we go from here. But 7 o'clock came as we're kind of headed back up here. Right in here as we're making this new high somewhere up through here. And then we just turned and came down. And there is a, this is not a second entry short. It's two legs up, so on a bigger pattern, and there is a two-legged move in the middle. You can see a leg down, up, down. So that's two legs back and then another. So technically this is like a second entry on the bigger chart. So as you can see, something's going on with my Ninja Trader. I'm going to pause this a bit. Okay, hopefully that doesn't happen again. I don't know what's going on. I'm not even going to try to look into it yet. We'll figure it out after the chart lesson. I want to get this done and processed and uploaded. So we'll move on here. And I kind of lost my train of thought of where we were at. Oh, the two legs up. So if you see that and you recognize the two-legged correction, even though this, by the counts, this is not a second entry, being that far away from the EMA, you could, I don't know what's going on here. I'm sorry. You could take that trade. My charts here are acting up, so I'm not even going to try to, for whatever reason. Every time you go away for a few days, you come back and there's all these updates and the computer updates and something like this happens and you got to piddle with it for a little bit. Seems like that's been my luck lately. But anyway, you might take that trade. I'm not going to try to mark it because for whatever reason, it's not letting my toolbar's not working here. So I probably need to restart my computer or something. But anyway, you may take that as a second entry if you recognize what I just talked about. A leg up, a two-legged correction, a second leg up. It's a measured move, basically. That's generally a very strong pattern. You can see it there. We didn't even quite make the second leg up that far away from the EMA. So that's I like that setup. So you may take that. I didn't mark it because it's a little more advanced. But then we drop down and we make a new low here, and then you get a first entry and a second entry. And you could also look at that as sideways with a little break higher. As long as you got room before this low here, you can take that. That's such a bearish bar. I like that one. And then we come back to the here and we set the trend line. No setup here. There is a second entry there, but not a very good signal bar. And then we're just kind of chopping sideways, and you get a failed breakout that confirms the trend line. As long as you got room to scalp out before coming back here, take that trade. And you can see it does bounce there a couple of times before it pushes lower. So that's why it's important that you have enough room to scalp out. So keep that in mind. Make sure you got room before this low to scalp out. That's why we do that. And of course, we continue to chop lower, and then we come back. You get a first entry. You get a first entry here, a second entry. So this is technically a third entry short. I like this trade because really we're going sideways and you get a failed breakout. The problem is it's like 10 minutes till 9, and at 9 o'clock you had an important news item up here that's related to the economy. So you got to kind of watch it. This one didn't really do a whole lot. And you still had 10 minutes here to see this thing turn down on a failed break. I mean, look at all that resistance right across there. This is the middle of the range, and it was looking a lot like a range at this point. And when you've tested that many times and it turns down, I like that trade. I might take that trade with 10 minutes to go. I mean, you would have been out of it in a few seconds, so it wouldn't have mattered. You would have been out at 9 o'clock, didn't come to way down here. But sometimes you don't know that. You could just keep chopping sideways. So you have to be careful with it. Use your best judgment. But I marked it here so I wouldn't forget to talk about it because I know somebody will ask me about it. Yeah, if you saw that trade and you felt comfortable enough to take it, I mean, it could fail or you could get hung up in that and then the news hit. But you might just exit right before the news if you don't feel comfortable with it. So might be worth taking. So, and I just marked out this, and really by 9:05, it was obvious that, excuse me, it was obvious that there wasn't much to this, to what was going on. And then, of course, you get the trend up, you get your first break, you get a second entry here. This is really, really tempting to go long. And if you did, and we're kind of down here, but we're sideways by the time. If you saw this and you took this, I probably wouldn't. I probably would be okay marking that green. I didn't mark it because this has been a good downtrend, but you still can't rule out at this point that this is not a range day. So, and that is the close from the previous day that we bounced off right there. So, little room back to the EMA. Maybe you take that trade. I'd give that a green, and if you really understood what's going on, real close to a red. But you see, you don't want to be too early getting short either, which that's tempting to go short, but right there with that support and all this sideways, don't take that because even though it would have worked, it could have bounced right off that support and burned you. So, and you got to be careful taking a long in a downtrend for the obvious reasons, but notice we weren't back to that trend line yet, so there's a good chance we're going back up one more time. You don't know that it's going to do this, and that's why you got to be careful with that short right there. Even though that's a second entry short and the first break of the trend line, way away from the EMA, looks real tempting. But guess what? If you took that, you got burned. And then if the next time it happened, you took it again, you got burned again. Well, actually, I'm pretty sure you got burned again. Yep, there's only a point there. So, wait on that lower high in most cases to be sure. And sometimes you don't get a lower, like once it turned, it was overdone and the bottom just fell out of it. So you don't get a lower high, so you don't get a chance to trade that. But you can almost be sure that you're going to get a retest here. And it just doesn't, so you got to be careful. Just keep that in mind. Timing is everything on this. Okay, my phone keeps ringing, so I was trying to silence that thing. But yeah, wait for that lower high. And then finally you get a second entry short here. You did make a new low there. But this is a really strong move down. I didn't draw the down trend line because this was the retest. Now, I usually don't draw. It doesn't mean you don't have to draw one because you can. But generally, I don't draw one on the retest. But that's such a long, strong one. You're probably going to get another retest of that at a minimum before you go higher. And you might, with this being such a big correction, you might get another leg down. So when this second entry short pops up right here, I like taking it. Especially if you got a little room back to the EMA there. And it's a quick, easy move. Most people thought this failed breakout was going to fail and we were going to go higher, and they got trapped in there. And you can see that how quickly they ran all their stops. So all these people that got long here were just exiting. And a few more, and then you just start kind of going sideways across here. You're just stuck in this larger channel. Really, it looks more like this. I had expanded it, but I believe that to be more correct right there. And so this was just a failed breakout in my opinion. Early on, I thought this was the range, and it does kind of fit, but later on you can see that this looks more like the support. In fact, it might even be slightly higher than that, where you catch all those moves across there. Honestly, that's where I think it fits the best, and that's where I would play it. You just bounced early here. I don't see any longs there anyway, but notice you did get a triple test here with a big bearish bar. I like going short there. There's a lower high here, but when you bounce at that midline, you got to say, oh, it may go higher, and it may stay in the upper half, so you got to be more careful. And down here, you don't have much room left. It ends up going lower, but you just don't know that. And you can see after it breaks out, it fails, comes back, tests that breakout area, and then turns down. And no short there. And then we finally make our new low, and you can see this is acceptance. We don't really get a lot of rejection at first. It's just kind of acceptance. And then once you get that triple test, boom, boom. Really, it's more than a triple test, but you also get a second entry long there. Once you get that, it kind of zooms off. You're not really looking for a second entry there. You're just looking at all these tests across here, and you can see a lot of buying coming in. I don't like buying this bar, honestly, right into that resistance, but being that far away from the EMA, if you understand that prices have probably bottomed now, maybe you do go long there. I think you're better off to wait. Turns out to be a pretty good move. Then you get your close outside and move to a new high, and then you're headed lower again. I don't think you want to go long here in this. This just looks like congestion. And then we're chopping sideways again here in this congestion area here. And it ends up breaking out to the downside, moves about a measured move. And so that would be your target down here. You look where you might get a bounce. But notice what's happening here. We're still fighting this new trend line, and you see it got confirmed here, and then it comes back and confirms it again and gives you a second entry short and plenty of room back to this low, and didn't matter, it just kept going. Corrects a little bit and then makes another leg down. So this trend line is definitely in play now. Until here, you can't get back down to the low and you get your break. But notice what happens. It pushes back in the channel. It tries to go higher once, twice, 3 times. So you got a triple test there. It's also a first, second entry. You did get this little inside bar that worries me a little bit, so that's why I marked it green. But you can clearly see that trend line still holding, and prices will probably make a new low. And what we'll either get is a measured move based on these 2 legs right here, or we might get a measured move based on the width of the range. And it looks like it turns out to be the width of the range. As you can see, that's where we bounced right there. And this looks a lot like this one, although you never really get a decent setup here. So maybe you take that trade. Turns out to be a really good trade. Actually, when it comes back right here, the second entry triggers right there, but then you get a lower high. So you could really enter that one in either place. So you could have another, I don't know what's going on. You could have another green one right there maybe. Drops all the way down, and then we're just kind of chopping around. I don't see anything in here I really like. That's a possibility, although you've already had your break of this, of the shorter term one in here. Let's make this one a different color. Just, well, it doesn't like we're going to do anything. But you've had a break of that one and the bigger one and a couple of legs to a new low. So this just looks like sideways action. It is tempting to take that short. If you took it, it's not the end of the world. We didn't quite have a measured leg up yet. We didn't quite get back to the trend line, but it's acting like a failed breakout of this little sideways action here, and there's plenty of room back down to here. So maybe you take that trade. I'd give it a green if you saw that. And then, of course, we make the measured move based on the width of the range. That's what this dashed line is running across here. And we bounce. Although you don't really get a setup there. You get a high or low, no setup again, and it just takes off. So no opportunity to really get long on this one, unfortunately. And then we turn back down again. And I hope I'm going to be able to get this screen to at least move here. And it's doing nothing. It's like it's completely locked up. So I don't know if I can't remember if there were any trades after this one or not. That's probably the 230 mark, so that's probably going to be it. But we run straight back up and test that breakout area, and it instantly turns down. Again, I don't really see any setups I like here until here. You make the new low, and you get a first entry, and you get a second entry. Fairly bearish bar on a second entry, and it does confirm that downward trend line. Very bearish bar, signal bar too. So I like that one. And it does turn out to be a pretty quick, easy move. You don't get a big runner out of it or anything, but you get a nice move out of it. So again, I don't know what's going on with my chart here. I probably just need a restart. But anyway, I hope that was the last trade. I think it was. Let me pause it a second. Well, anyway, I can't get my chart to do anything. It's froze up, and if I try to restart it or anything, I'm going to lose it anyway. So I don't think I believe that's actually the 230 cutoff right there. It's real close. I don't think there's any other trades in there. So I think we got all the trades. I think that covers it. So yeah, I'm going to wrap this up, and we'll be back again to do it tomorrow. It's going to be a short week because of the Monday holiday, but thank goodness we had that Monday holiday, because I don't know if I'd have made it in Monday or not. Like I said, the time change of being off 3 and 4 hours really got to me when I got back, and I've had a hard time adjusting. So everything's out of whack. My sleeping, my eating habits, everything's out of whack. So it would have been difficult. Today felt more normal. Probably tomorrow will be a little closer, and by the end of the week, hopefully I'll be back to normal. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.